In this video of the Better Photography Weekly Contest, we will be discussing the winners and honorable mentions of the theme Meaning in Chaos. Our judge and mentor is Rohit Saha. An alumnus of the National Institute of Design, Rohit works across multiple formats such as photography, illustration, and animation to weave a story. Over the years, his projects revolve around communities, landscapes, and political phenomena. His series, titled 1528, won the Alkazi Photo Book Award in 2017. And a year later, he was honored with the Magnum Foundation Social Justice Fellowship. Rohit's work has been featured in Pix, The Indian Express, The Caravan, Magnum Foundation, amongst others. Hello and welcome, Rohit.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here again. Yes.
So can you tell me what you felt about the entries that you saw, like everything that you saw?
So I was pretty excited, since it was my first judging round. So, when I got the entries, I started relating it with what I was speaking about in my talk. And I liked the different varieties of entries. I could relate because they were all, there were different stories. But all single images. So it was nice to have a look at, okay, all what different people want to say or want to continue. So it was nice to see how people resonated with what I was saying. So I was pretty excited to see the entries. Yeah. So let's start with the camera category of the photographs I chose. This photograph, when I first saw it, reminded me of Hitchcock's Birds, and everything around with it. I think the feeling of it. So what I mean by chaos is not only how chaotic is the photograph, but also how the photograph makes me feel, or what this photograph becomes a portal to. So I start relating it to what I have thoughts in my mind when I see this photograph, but in a way it brings a common ground where the photographer is trying to say something and I'm trying to think something. So I feel it represents chaos in a nice way. Then a photograph like this, which comments on the chaotic landscape of growing India or not so growing India, because about how human interventions change the landscape. And we've always looked at the chaos between man and nature. So I think this photograph gives a great window into this aspect of chaos in a city, of how, even though they look all systematic, all plain, but I feel the chaos in the city life is pretty well expressed through this photograph. And having such big monuments, having such big icons in the photograph helps you locate and, figure out all kinds of what's happening around, the people living there and the neighborhood and everything. With this, I think I pretty much like this photograph because, when I first look at this photograph, it takes me to this surreal land, which I start feeling, okay, all the feelings that comes with the surreal land, being lost, being abandoned, and then clueless. And then you see this dog, and I feel this photo does really stand up, with the rest of the photograph, because the rest of the photographs are pretty direct, but this has it's indirect, and with this photograph, when I look at it, it's more like, where the silence becomes louder and hence more chaotic. So when I look at this photograph, it makes me think of doomsday. The world has crumpled and there's only a few things living. So I pretty much like this photograph when it has to talk about chaos. Now this photograph, I think this was one of the entries which was in color. I think the color red has its own meaning of how it gets represented. And then again, when you look closely, you see the formation of everything in this photograph, with the man standing with his arms raised up in the air. There is this call for war, or like call for fight. And then how these people are sitting, even though they're like systematic, but there's still a rise of power kind of chaos in it. And this, I think it represents some ritualistic activity in our country, but with the expressions, with the flying of hair, with the color, it all suits and gives us and evokes a feeling of chaos and power, I feel. So these photographs did stand up in the camera category. In the smartphone category, which I really like, it's photographs such as this. Again, it's a commentary on human intervention on the land, and how the earth gets shaped because of humans, and the chaos in between nature and human. And I think it's all about how you relate to chaos. I think chaos is such a broad topic. It could be, photographs could be of anything, but then how it relates to that feeling is what I think we are all trying to look for. This photograph really struck my attention because, like this double exposure, or, not double exposure, this reflection of what's inside and what's outside. And like, it also gives an idea of, when I first looked at it, I thought it's a scan of a brain. But then again, when I'm like started looking more deeper, it started evoking a lot of meanings. Maybe it talks about the person who is in the photograph, or maybe the photographer who is looking at the person, and everything in between, the thought. Maybe it's the thought of the photographer or the thought of the person. So everything together gives a really strong way which denotes chaos. Again, this with with the formation, with everything, with the hands. I think there are a few basic things what we see when we're trying to read a photograph, which are there. But then again, the emotions, and when you start hearing the photograph of what's happening there, starts evoking this feeling. So similarly with the red photograph that we saw in the camera category, I also like this photograph because of the energy around in this place. Same with this, where you again get the feeling of the rush. You see the train speeding by, you see people running around. So I think we start hearing the noise of the station, the sound of the station, which where we can start relating it to the life of people, those who travel, or time when I traveled. It's about how I'm looking at it, or how the photographer is looking at it. And I feel, yeah, same with this, a girl at a traffic, at a traffic post. I feel it talks about the nature of everyone traveling in the road. Like, I think it's pretty crowded in most of the streets, with COVID restrictions are up again, and people and traffic is back on the track. And this entire chaos, which we were very, what would I say? We were not really close to for the past 2 years, and then back to this chaos. I think, that transition of what has happened in the past 2 years. And, I think looking at traffic right now creates a much more crowded sensation than it was before, at least for me as an artist. Because, I haven't been going out of my room or house, and when I look at this, I feel uncomfortable of, oh damn, the traffic is back again, and everything around. And yeah, that's fine. Yeah. So these are the shots that we chose. And so when it had to talk about winners, and like when I had to choose one, like it was very difficult to choose, out of them, like which is the first, because they are single images, as I said, which is difficult for me to judge because what's next, what happened before. But then after this hard time, I figured that, okay, so for camera category, we gave this as the second prize, Abhishek Pandey from Bhopal. Because as I said, it evoked a feeling of surrealness, and yet, even like there is silence in the photograph, but it's way chaotic around as a form of energy. And in the camera category one, we gave this photograph as the first prize because of everything. Like and I'm not saying I'm comparing photographs here. It's not about comparing photographs. Like this photograph is better than the other. It's all about which photograph talks more to chaos than and it's also about pushing yourself a bit, that there are some places like this which are easy to photograph something and it can be chaotic, but then also looking at what can be photographed which represents chaos but which doesn't look chaotic was a thing that I was trying to figure out while trying to judge. So these are the two winners from the camera category, and in the smartphone category, I definitely gave it to this photograph, which I said had, I kept looking at this photograph and, it made me think of a lot of things, which is, I think, what a photograph should do. So yeah, that's that.